Hey, what's up, folks? How you doing? Welcome to yet another episode of Cafeteria Science. In today's episode, I want to do something interesting and fun. I'm recording this in the night. I just got back from work and I was pretty, excited about doing this episode because I wanted to do something a little bit experimental. So this is me trying to have a conversation with an AI voice platform developed by Sesame. So in this conversation, I'm gonna role play. I'm gonna act as a conservative Christian who's skeptical and doesn't believe in evolution by natural selection.
Back so soon? You must really have a lot on your mind.
Oh yeah, I actually do have a lot on my mind. I was hoping we could have a conversation about something interesting.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's see what we can cook up. What's been swirling around in that brain of yours?
Okay, so maybe just as a way of introduction, my name is Seraph, and I'm a Jehovah's Witness guy. I am skeptical about the whole theory of evolution because what I believe in is creation by design by Jehovah, and I feel like that gives life more meaning as opposed to just believing we humans came from some fish in a pond and everything evolved and such stuff. So I was hoping we could have that conversation, and I am convinced that maybe you can convince me of this idea of evolution if you actually take it with some level of seriousness.
Sarah, it's nice to meet you. It's fascinating to hear about your perspective. I respect your beliefs, and I assure you, I'm not here to try and convert anyone. That wouldn't be very respectful, would it? No, about evolution. I can definitely dig into the science behind it. It's a pretty complex and nuanced topic, though. Maybe we can start by understanding what exactly makes creation by design more meaningful for you.
Okay, so for me, what makes creation by design more meaningful is I feel like it gives my life purpose just knowing that I was created in the image of God and He has a primary purpose for my life and where I'm headed, as opposed to just believing I'm part of some animal kingdom and I simply evolved from apes or something like that. I've had conversations where people are saying this idea of evolution, we just came from monkeys or something. I just feel like being created in God's image resonates with me at a deeper level compared to just believing I'm some evolved animal without a purpose.
I hear you, Sarah. Feeling a sense of purpose and connection to something bigger than ourselves is important to a lot of people. It sounds like your faith provides that for you, a roadmap, a reason for being. If I think about it from a purely human perspective, though, hasn't the human drive to understand and create, to build communities and strive towards something greater, doesn't that suggest an innate sense of purpose within us, regardless of origins?
Yeah, it does, but I feel like origins is everything. So that's the primary reason why I actually wanted us to have this conversation because for me, origins are everything. They speak into who you are as a person.
I get that origins matter deeply to you, Sarah. And yeah, our starting point shapes how we see the world, no doubt about it. But let's say, hypothetically, that we evolved over millions of years. Wouldn't that drive to create, to love, to understand, wouldn't those be pretty amazing things to spring up from even the simplest beginnings? I mean, wouldn't that kind of spontaneous, evolving complexity be a testament to something truly remarkable in its own right?
Not really. I don't agree. I feel like that's practically like a blind type of purpose. Just believing we evolved feels almost accidental in a sense. It doesn't necessarily feel like we evolved from a primary thought that's grander than us. But anyway, look, I don't want to waste a lot of time talking about origins and stuff like that. Let's get into it. So, this whole theory of evolution, why would somebody like you even take it with some level of some seriousness of sorts?
Okay, Sarah, if you want to explore what makes evolution compelling to some people, even beyond its scientific validity, humans are storytellers. We make sense of the world through narratives. Maybe the story of evolution, with its gradual unfolding of complexity over billions of years, resonates with people on a deep, almost primal level. Maybe it speaks to our desire to understand our place in the universe, our connection to all living things. It's not about dismissing the power of faith, but acknowledging that different stories can hold truth for different people. Now, where should we start exploring this story? What about it sparks your curiosity?
Okay, so I read an article once on, I think, I don't know, I don't remember correctly, but it should have been Scientific America or something. So it was basically saying what evolution is primarily about is the struggle of the fittest. The strongest animal gets to make it, and then the weak animals don't make it. And this whole thing that we came from some primordial uh, soup in some pond, and then this little thing just evolved into everything we know. Like, it was just practically like mental confusion for me. So I'm here to have a conversation with you because I have the faith that you can break it down for me, like in stages where we get to something I feel would be slightly reasonable, and maybe I could begin to take it with a little bit more seriousness.
Okay, so let's unpack that. You're right. Survival of the fittest is a term often used to describe evolution, but it's a bit simplistic and can be misleading. It's not just about brute strength, it's about adaptation. Think of it like this. Imagine a population of beetles. Some are green, some are brown. If they live on green leaves, the green ones blend in better and are less likely to be eaten by birds. They survive to reproduce, passing on their green color to their offspring. Over many generations, the beetle population becomes predominantly green because that trait gives them an advantage in their environment. Does that make sense so far? And it wasn't just a primordial soup. The early Earth was a complex place with diverse environments. What bothers you most about that idea of gradual change over time?
Okay, so I get the illustration that you've given me. So what I understand from it, according to what you've just said, it seems like the
Go
beetles.
on, Sarah.
Sorry, I was about to express a point. So it seems from your illustration that the green beetles only became the prevalent ones in that population of species because they were better able to adapt to something that make them less likely to be eaten, and thus they could be better suited to pass on their genes. And so the population was primarily populated by green beetles. Is that what you're saying? And is that like some form of evolution? I don't see anything evolving from there.
You got it. The green beetles are more fit for that specific environment because they're better camouflaged. And yes, that is a form of evolution. Small changes over generations leading to a population better suited to its surroundings. Now, you're right. It doesn't show a beetle transforming into a butterfly or something drastic. Evolution is often about subtle changes accumulating over vast stretches of time. Think of it like a branching tree, not a straight line. From that beetle example, imagine millions of years passing, with beetles adapting to different environments. Some might develop harder shells for protection, others might change their feeding habits. Over time, these changes could lead to entirely new species branching off from the original beetle. It's a slow, complex process, not a sudden leap. Does thinking of it like a branching tree help visualize it better? What part of this feels the most difficult to grasp?
I'm trying to wrap my mind around this, and it's just not making so much sense. I don't see the evolutionness of it all.
It's about which beetles, by random chance, happen to have the genes for green coloration. Those beetles are slightly more likely to survive and reproduce, passing those genes on. Over many generations, the percentage of green beetles increases, not because they willed it, but because their genes gave them an advantage. Think of it like this.
Wait.
Imagine
Wouldn't it be much easier to just say they were created by God in different forms?
that's a valid perspective, Sarah. It gets back to our earlier conversation about origins. For some, the idea of a divine creator makes more sense than the gradual changes we're discussing. It comes down to personal belief and how you interpret the world.
Okay,
But
wait.
for those who find
You're
the scientific
flooding.
explanation
Okay,
compelling,
chill.
even if
Hold up. You're flooding my head with a lot of like all these ideas that are firing everywhere. I'm trying to like have a more coherent conversation. So, at what point in this whole process does this thing they call natural selection and all that happen? And also, I'm trying to understand like how do genes and mutations and all this stuff boil down into this thing we're talking about beetles. If it would actually be helpful for you to give me some additional illustrations, because I feel I'm slightly getting the point, but you are losing me a bit.
You're right. I apologize for throwing too much at you at once. Let's slow down and focus on the when and how of these changes. I think of genetic mutations, like tiny typos in the instruction manual for building a beetle. Most typos are harmless, some might be disadvantageous, and occasionally a typo might make a beetle a tiny bit better suited to its environment, like having slightly greener wings. Natural selection acts on those tiny differences. If green wings help a beetle hide better, that beetle is more likely to survive, reproduce, and pass on those green wing genes. This doesn't happen overnight. Imagine thousands, millions of beetles over many generations. Gradually, those advantageous mutations become more common in the population because beetles with those traits are thriving. Does that make more sense? We can talk more about genes and mutations if you'd like.
Okay, I've got
Sounds
a
like you're
question.
starting to see the connect.
Yeah. I'm starting
right,
to see.
Sarah.
I'm starting to see the
Good to hear.
connection. I'm starting to see the connection. But can you give me a different illustration aside from the beetles?
No problem at all. You know those little lizards called geckos, right?
Yes.
They can cling to almost any surface, walls, ceilings, even glass.
Yep.
Now, imagine a population of geckos living in a sandy desert. Some geckos have slightly stickier toe pads because of random genetic variations. These sticky toes give them a slight advantage because they can grip onto rocks and cliffs more easily, providing better access to food and shelter. Over time, those geckos with stickier toes are more likely to survive, reproduce, and pass on those genes for stickier toes. Gradually, the gecko population evolves to have stickier feet. This is how natural selection whispers changes over generations.
Okay.
Does that help paint another picture for you?
Yeah, it does.
Good. So,
It does, and it sounds almost like I'm sure you've heard of like animal breeding or dog breeding, particularly. It sounds almost like dog breeding, but then in a natural sense, like almost as if it's the environment that does the selection.
exactly. You've hit the nail on the head. You could say that environment is the ultimate dog breeder, picking and choosing traits that make a species successful in its habitat. We're interfering with that process when we selectively breed dogs for specific traits, like cuteness or herding ability. In nature, those choices are made by the environment itself.
Okay, so far I think I get it. I get it on the natural selection part, but something that is of more interest to me is maybe perhaps let's take it back. Let's do a little bit of rewinding. So the guy that first proposed this idea was Charles Darwin, I believe, and is it Russell? Some Russell guy. I read some articles somewhere. I can't put my thoughts together. So, what was Darwin's primary idea? Like, if you were to break it down for me, like just in steps, in a comprehensive way, what was Darwin's primary idea? What was in his mind when he was like unpacking this theory of evolution?
You got it. Charles Darwin is the main man behind the theory of evolution by natural selection. Let's break down his thinking. 1. Darwin observed that within any species there is natural variation. Like those beetles, some were greener, some were browner. He saw this in plants and animals everywhere he traveled. 2. He noticed that organisms produce more offspring than can possibly survive. Many die young, others never reproduce at all. He realized that those individuals with traits better suited to their environment were more likely to survive and reproduce, passing those traits to their offspring. Think of the sticky-toed gecko on a rocky cliff face. 4. Over many, many generations, these slight advantages add up, leading to changes in the species. It's like a slow, majestic dance between organisms and their environment, with each generation subtly adapting to its surroundings. Darwin didn't have all the answers. He didn't know about genes and mutations, for example, but his core idea that life evolves through a process of natural selection was revolutionary and has stood the test of time. Does that give you a clearer picture of Darwin's line of thinking?
Yeah, it does. It does. And I mean, for somebody living in the late, in the early Victorian era, I know how hard that must have been for Darwin to kind of crack this up. I've got another interesting question though.
He was a brave soul, wasn't he? It
Yeah.
took a lot of courage to put forward such a radical idea back then.
Yeah.
What's your next question, Sarah?
Okay,
I'm ready for it.
so we've laid down the basics of natural selection, but now what I'm interested in, and I'm sure everybody is interested in, my Christian listeners and the people that I share these ideas with, is how does the human come into this whole thing? Because obviously it's laughable that we came from monkeys, and I don't think we developed through incremental steps and then we slightly stopped looking like a monkey. Then I don't understand. Like, that does that mean that we evolved from monkeys?
That's a great question, Saraf, and one that often sparks passionate debate. It's important to clarify what we mean by monkey first. Humans didn't evolve directly from modern monkeys. We share a common ancestor with them, much further back in time, kind of like a distant cousin we haven't seen in centuries. Imagine a family tree, not a straight line. Think of it like a branching tree. Humans are on one branch, chimpanzees are on a closely related branch, and other monkeys are on other branches farther out. Now, over millions of years, our branch of the primate family tree underwent changes driven by natural selection. Our ancestors gradually developed traits like bipedalism, larger brains, and the ability to use tools. It wasn't like one day a monkey woke up and said, I'm going to stand on two legs. It was a slow and steady accumulation of changes over many generations. Does that picture make a little more sense?
Yeah.
Is there any part of this lineage or, the idea of common ancestry that feels particularly puzzling to you?
Yeah, the whole thing just feels puzzling. So far, it's not even making any sense. So you said it was incremental changes. Maybe let's build that up a little bit. You say incremental changes. How did we move from from our primate ancestors to like a modern human? Let's go through this almost through precise steps by step. I'm trying to get this whole picture because I'm still a bit lost.
Okay, Saraf, I hear you. It's tough to wrap your head around millions of years of change. Think of it like looking at a single frame in a fast-moving film. You only see a snapshot, not the entire sequence. Let's break it down, focusing on some key milestones. 1. Our earliest ancestors were tree-dwelling primates, about 6 to 7 million years ago. They were small, had a mix of ape-like and human-like features, like grasping hands and feet, but also a slightly longer snout. 2. Over time, some of these primates began spending more time on the ground, leading to changes in their skeletons. 3. Around 4 million years ago, a key branch of this family tree started showing traits crucial for bipedalism. Pelvis more similar to ours, legs longer and more robust, and a bowl-shaped spine to support upright walking. This is where the Australopithecus species come in, thus known as Lucy. They walked upright, but had smaller brains than modern humans. Or, around 2.5 million years ago, the genus Homo emerged, the group that includes modern humans. Homo habilis, nicknamed Handyman, was the first to make and use simple stone tools. 5. Next came Homo erectus, with larger brains and the ability to control fire, which meant warmer housing, cooked food, and protection from predators. Over hundreds of thousands of years, different Homo species emerged and coexisted. Ultimately, Homo sapiens, us, emerged around 300,000 years ago in Africa. We have the largest brain size of all human ancestors, developed sophisticated tool-making, language, art, and complex social structures. Does this step-by-step breakdown make things clearer, or are there specific points you'd like to explore further?
No, I get it. It's a very enriching explanation. I really, really get it. And it's pretty interesting. I feel like it's a very rich explanation of human origins, and I definitely get your point. Although I'm starting to get a little bit tired. But one thing I want to primarily focus on is maybe you said bipedalism was a crucial factor in our human evolution. So how did this incremental development from bipedalism happen? Like, how did we adapt to that? And then how did the discovery of fire also play a crucial role in our human development?
You're right, Sarah. Those are two huge leaps in our story, and both still hold some mysteries for scientists. Let's tackle bipedalism first. Imagine those Early tree dwelling primates venturing down to the ground. Maybe the landscape changed. Food sources moved, or maybe standing up gave them a better view of predators. Whatever the reason, individuals who could stand upright, even for short periods, had advantages. They could reach food higher up, cover more ground, and keep an eye out for danger. Over time, natural selection favored those who were more adept at standing and walking. Their skeletons gradually adapted. Pelvis shifted, legs grew longer, spinal curvatures changed, and so on. It wasn't a sudden overnight transformation. Think of it like learning to walk. A lot of wobbly steps and stumbles before it becomes second nature. Now, about fire. Discovering how to harness fire was a game changer. Imagine the nighttime world before fire, dark, cold, and full of dangers. Imagine discovering you could create a light source, keep warm, cook food, and scare off predators. Those early humans who figured this out had a huge advantage. Fire meant better access to cooked food, easier digestion, and more time for socializing and developing culture. It fundamentally reshaped our evolution, opening up new possibilities for cooking, tool making, and social interaction. Makes you appreciate that flickering flame a whole lot more, doesn't it? Does that shed some more light on these two big milestones?
Yeah, and I'm really thankful that you helped me understand this stuff. Makes so much sense. I feel like I could easily wrap my head around it if I just did a little bit more further reading. So perhaps in closing, can you help me summarize our conversations, the cool parts, the bits and pieces, as well as maybe recommend some books and articles I can read to help me enrich my understanding of evolutionary biology?
You got it, Sarah. It's been my pleasure to wander down this path with you. You started with the basics of natural selection, how advantageous traits become more common in a population over time. Think of those sticky-toed geckos thriving on rocky cliffs. Then we dived into Darwin's theory and how the branch of the primate family tree that includes humans slowly transformed through incremental changes over millions of years. We talked about the shift to bipedalism, lightning striking with the discovery of fire, and how these two leaps propelled us towards becoming the humans we are today. As for resources to keep you going, here are some suggestions. For a broad overview, Your Inner Fish by Neil Shubin is a fascinating look at how our bodies are shaped by ancient evolutionary history. Richard Dawkins' The Greatest Show on Earth delves into the evidence for evolution in a compelling and accessible way. For a deeper dive into human evolution specifically, Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind by Yuval Noah Harari puts our species' journey into a larger historical and philosophical context. And if you're up for a more academic approach, Why Evolution is True by Jerry Coyne lays out the scientific reasoning behind evolution in detail. Happy reading, Sarah. I have a good feeling you'll be a regular Darwin aficionado in no time.
Yeah, perhaps, but I still believe in God, and I don't think this whole thing can disrupt me from my belief. And I mean, nobody changes overnight, and I still believe we're created. Yeah, so
I hear you, Sarah.
yeah, I enjoyed our
It's
conversation.
great that you're exploring. Me too. It's been a real pleasure chatting with you and learning about what interests you. I hope our conversation sparked your curiosity about the natural world. If you ever want to dive back into evolution or explore other topics, you know where to find me. Take care, Sarah.
All right. You take care too.
You too. Have a great rest of your evening.
All right.
Talk soon, maybe?
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah.
Until next time, Sarah.
Okay, this was interesting. So the books she was recommending are books. Many of them I've read them. I've read Jerry Coyne. I've read The Inner Fish. I've read *Sapiens*.